So a few months ago on Facebook Marketplace, I started getting suggested ads for 3D printers, and as you can tell, I ended up buying a 3D printer. The question was it worth buying a used 3D printer as opposed to just going out and buying a brand new one? Well, there are a couple of things to consider. Are you going to continue with it as a hobby? Are you going to, like it? Are you going to get used to it? Are you going to know what you're doing with it? The cost, obviously. Yes, you can buy a brand new 3D printer reasonably cheap now, but if it's something that you're not going to enjoy, you're just going to end up putting it back in the box and sticking it in a corner after, say, first couple of weeks. Is it really worth buying a brand new one? So what I ended up with was a Creality S1, at the Ender 3 S1, sorry, £100. The other things you've got to consider, it's not, you're not just buying the printer, you've got the filament. Obviously, FDM, you got to buy the filament, and that's going to get out of hand pretty quick. Yeah, you sort of think, let's buy a couple of rolls, and then before you know it, you have a stack that's just getting a bit crazy. But the other things to consider are maintenance. These things are not inkjet printers. They've got a lot of moving parts, and they're going to go wrong. Even the new ones go wrong, but a nozzle for a newer 3D printer might be £15, whereas you can get a full box of nozzles for this thing for a couple of quid, and they'll last you ages. They'll last you pretty much forever. Hot ends. These are complete kits. You get everything. You get the heater cartridge, block, a new silicon sock. You get the heat brake. Now, I did replace the heat brake on this one because these are the S1 kits, and these are the single metal heat brakes. I got the bimetal heat brake, which is really for the S1 Pro, because I was getting a few clogs with these, and you get a clog and a blob of death, and you're replacing the whole thing anyway. So when they're only a couple of quid for, I think these were maybe £3 or £4 for a complete kit, and there's everything in there that you need to replace the whole hot end assembly. Like V-groove wheels, I think that was a box of 10 for maybe £4 or £5. Because when I did first get this, it wasn't as smooth as I liked. It was a bit rough. So I did replace the wheels on it, which helped a lot because it was catching as it was going across the model itself and laying down the filament. It was catching it, and it actually kept knocking over the support material. So I did replace those rather quickly, as I figured that was more than likely the culprit, and as it turned out, it was. But again, I suppose it just depends on what you want to do with it. For me, everybody does them, don't they? The flexes. You can tell yourself you're not going there, but you're going to do. Kids love them. The Godzilla one. You're going to print some crap, let's be honest. You're going to print nonsense stuff. Everything that you print's not going to be, I don't know, a helmet or a bracket for something, which, currently in the process of printing brackets which are for Nerf guns for putting them on wall. Another thing that gets out of hand. I did actually buy it with the intention of building helmets, but up to press, I only got a couple, and this is probably one of the. This was the first one I did actually, the Iron Man helmet. I haven't got around to finishing it. Will I get around to finish it? I don't know. I might just reprint the whole thing because it's not the best. The printer, when I first got it, wasn't running perfect, but I seem to got it tuned in a little bit better than it was. But printing just even printing big things, you know, you don't need a massive printer to print something fairly big. A lot of these models come in multi-parts. You don't even need multicolour printers neither. I know that's the new thing now, isn't it? Multicolour, multi-tool head. But yeah, you know, like I say, you're not. It's not an inkjet printer. Yes, they're older, so they're more likely to go wrong. But you know, some of the newer ones are going wrong almost straight out of the box. You know, because they're just companies are just rushing to get them out. Whereas at least these things, you know, they're tried and tested. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Creality, no, you want to steer clear of Creality." But you know, I watched videos by Frankly Built and Uncle Jesse, and yeah, you know, sometimes they say they're not the best, but honestly, you know, I've had a couple of clogs on it. Probably my fault. Ended up back in the summer sticking it in garage, use it in there because it was taking up a lot of space because it gets out of hand. Boxes and boxes of filament, spare parts, half finished models everywhere. It does get a little bit out of hand, but and quite quickly as well. But it's good. Enjoying it so far. Another big one, crusty. I did also do a Homer, but that was for my eldest daughter. You know, they're not the quickest, they're not the sharpest quality sometimes, but you know, if you're willing to just tweak a little bit and try and get them running better, you can get decent print results. You know, flexes, yeah, they do what you want them to do. Even Lego figures, there's loads of models for these. And again, you don't need multicolour. You can, you know, it's PLA, it paints easy enough. I would say don't use the thinner paints on it because of the layer lines. It just wicks the paint. I've done a few of these. This one's helmet's kind of stuck on now, but I did do a couple of other ones as Superman and Thor. And you paint the eyes in, and they just bleed straight through because I didn't want to do too much painting on things like that. So I thought, let's get skin tone for the heads and things like that. But as soon as you try and paint the eyes in, if the paint's too thin, it just wicks along them layer lines, and you end up with big bleed problems. But would I recommend buying a used 3D printer for somebody? If you're just starting out and you ain't got a massive budget, yeah, 100 quid. You know, if you don't enjoy it, you don't like it, or you may be building one little printing one little flexi for one of your kids, or you know, a couple of brackets for something around the house, then yeah, you don't want to be spending £300 and upwards on something that's not going to get used very often. So 100 quid and your spare parts are just, you know, price of a cup of coffee. Yeah, why not? And this probably won't be the last 3D printer I buy either, because I am enjoying it. The kids enjoy it. They love playing with, you know, flexes that I make. And my youngest son, he loves his dinosaurs, so he's got a T-Rex skull. He's got, you know, the Flexi Rexes, things like that. Yeah, they enjoy it. I enjoy it. So yeah, probably will end up buying another. I have to find somewhere to put it first, because as everybody knows, PLA doesn't like damp conditions. I mean, I'm not saying the garage is damp, but obviously it's outside, so you're going to get some moisture, and I think that was the problem I was having initially. You know, you get moisture into your filament, and it just messes your prints up. You know, see what happens. I'll have to get a dryer, probably dry them before I print with them, because brand new rolls out of the box, straight out of packaging, fine. Print's lovely with them. But you know, you just leave them in that garage for a week or so, and it don't do it any good. But yeah, definitely recommend a used 3D printer if you can get one for the right price. I mean, when I bought this one, it did have a video of him printing with it. Turned it all on, started it going while I was there, so I knew it did work. So that's another thing, is make sure it does work. But I suppose it just, it's one of them risks. So it lays down a couple of layers, yeah, it works. You won't know until you actually try and do a full print on it as whether it will work or not. But yeah, seemed to work fine. Does job. See what happens. I think we'll do another video or so. We're coming up to Easter now, so I think over the next couple of weeks I'll try and get some Easter prints done. Stick some videos on of those so we can see it maybe getting a bit higher, so we know that it is definitely working. I'm not just saying, oh yeah, it works, just to do this little bit here. But yeah, that's all for now.